Hey. All right. I know it's been a while. So yeah, I was taking some time off. I was with my family and all that stuff. It was pretty cool, man. Had the chance to catch up with my sisters, some other family members, all that good stuff. But I figured I don't want the week to end and then not at least put up something. Because I was thinking about this, right? So imagine, say that you have a family member that you really care about, you know, that you really care about that person. But he's uh he's a drunk, right? That person is a drunk. So you go from, you care about that person, you don't want to see anything bad happen to him, right? Because you love that person. But everything that you do, you cannot get through that person. You can't. You just can't. So, you might pray for that person. You might try to help them out. You might just try to talk to them. Sometimes you get mad at that person, but it's not happening. But then you also have, when that person get drunk, they behave a certain way. They do certain things, and it's just almost impossible to deal with those type of behavior that person actually exhibit. So then, therefore, now strangers, they start looking at your family member and they talk about your family member in a negative light. They might say things like, how bad of a person he is. And you constantly try to go out of your way to have justification as to why this person behaved the way he behaved, such as, I don't know, his father used to beat him when he was a kid, or his father wasn't around. Um, he was in prison. Um, he, like he started becoming drunk when he was little, never had the chance to stop it, so that's not his fault. You know, somebody forced him to drink the bottle, all this shit. And now it gets to the point now you are more upset at people that are pointing out and stating that you have a drunk uncle, you have a drunk brother, you have a drunk something. So you will become more upset at these people pointing out the behavior of your drunk family member than the behavior of the family member itself. So at which point now you come from, you transform from being a carer to an enabler. I said that to say this. When we're looking at the behavior of a good portion of the Black community, and yes, that also include the Haitians, that also include anybody, doesn't matter. So when we're looking at the behavior, okay, let's just say the behavior of the group which you claim to be a part of, right? When we're looking at some of those behavior, a good portion of these people are drunk on stupid. They are just drunk on their own stupidity, to the point where when their action cannot be justifiable. So then, as a person who actually identify with that group, then you now become more upset at the fact that others are pointing out the stupidity of the peers which you associate yourself with than the stupidity of these people themselves. So I think that's also one of the main reasons why you have the doxing, you have the online harassment, you have the mass flagging to people that actually might say things that you don't like. Take let's say a guy like Aaron Fountain exposing the manosphere. Um, his channel has been flagging left and right, left and right. Take someone like Kim123. Not only his channel has been flagged, um, he's being harassed as well as being doxxed. So to someone who, you know, doesn't like what you are saying, wouldn't the rational things to do is to actually stop listening to what you have to say and just move on to another channel? No. But it's because they feel this sense of obligation to stand up for their drunk family member, to actually even like try to shut down people that simply pointed out that, hey, your family member has an addiction and he's doing a lot of stupid shit, and you know that it's too late now to correct any sort of behavior to your family member. It is the hardest thing to do for you to actually try to help him get better. So then what do? You try to make it seems like his behavior is not an issue whatsoever. So it's like you could think of the same scenario based on any type of categories. When you point out some of the fuckeries that goes on in the manosphere or in people, let's say in male, then you have, oh, you're just hating on black men, or you're just hating on men, you are this, you are that. You reverse that if, let's say, you are someone that's like, okay, like, you're a feminist or something like that, right? And then therefore any criticism of women, now you turn it around as saying that, oh, you sexist, you are bashing women, you are so on and so forth. Turn that into, let's say, black people's behavior. Then any sort of criticism of a particular group within the black community that is causing all this chaos, all this hardship, all this headache. Now they turn around and saying that, if you're a black person, you are coon for pointing it out. If you're a white person, then you are just racist. You don't have to be white. You could just be anybody other than black. Just pointing out those situations alone makes you a coon, makes you whatever. Not the behavior themselves, right? So, but there's also this other factor as well, which I'm not going to get into details. So let's say that you have this drunk, that person that is drunk and stupid, right? And he's like, oh, look at me. It's not my fault that I have like 3 or 4 baby mamas. It's not my fault that I have 3 or 4 baby daddies. It's not my fault that, like, I spend most of my 30s and 40s, I have not accomplished anything. It's the white supremacy's fault. All right? So you have that talking point. And it's like there's no sort of self-accountability whatsoever. Right? And then, of course, you have the enabler that's saying that, yes, you're right. If it wasn't for all this systematic racism, you probably would have been something in life. You probably could have been a doctor or a lawyer or something like that. If it wasn't for this, if it wasn't for slavery, you could have been somebody. I hear you, brother. I hear you. Yes, you are right. You are totally right. It is not your fault. So that enabler now, also you have, on the other hand, those who are not really a family member. Let's just say a total stranger. That is now looking at the drunk person and saying that, he's drunk, he's vulnerable. And as long as I get him to talk, I can actually take advantage of that person. So that's when you start having a whole bunch of fake ass pro-black that are actually not black at all. They're just either Hispanic or white. I think there's a name G. Larry called them snow taps. There you go. So you got a whole bunch of snow taps, motherfuckers, right? And then they are now starting to say the exact same thing that the drunk on stupid guy are saying, and continue to give them an excuse as long as their words, the drunk person's words coming out of their mouth The person's gonna be like, oh yes, finally, someone who doesn't look like me but agree with me. Oh yes, yes, that's not my fault. Why I have an addiction, right? That's not my fault. I have all these bad decisions. Yes, you do understand me. So that Snowtep talking about like, yes, you're right, brother. You're right. That is not your fault. It's white supremacy's fault, or it's systematic oppression, or it's women's fault, or you name it. So as long as even the person that's saying that don't really have to believe in it. All they know is like they find themselves a group of folks that actually really like when their talking point come out of their mouths. So let's say that you are Latino, you don't really care about what the fuck is really going on, but you know that if you say certain things, then you might get a positive response to those folks that are vulnerable, that are not really the brightest of the bunch of black culture, or black people, but because you actually get to speak you get to talk their talking point, then you feel like you are one of them. And that's why you now have this divide between Black Hotep and Hispanic or white Hotep, or what would you like call it, Snowteps, because both of them are enablers. Both of them are enablers. But you have the Black Hoteps are most likely feels like they have first dibs on blacks, white supremacy talking point, because A, they're already black, and B, black people supposed to be their priority. So then therefore they're the one that's supposed to cape. They're the one that's supposed to um, enable fucked up behaviors, right? But then when a white or an Hispanic come through and saying the same talking point, but he's better received because, hey, he's not black. So then now you have this conflict of interest between the Black Hotep and the Snowteps for the exact same shit. And it's all a game. Because for the most part, those who are actually genuine, who really believe what they're saying, even though they play a huge role in the enabling aspect of black society, those, even though like they might be enablers, but they may be genuine about what they're saying. That's why I kind of refer to them. I kind of looked at it as the true pro-black, the ones that really care about their people, but at the same time, now that caring turns into an enabling, right? So you have that aspect, but you do have those that really, really don't give a fuck. They really don't give a fuck, but they're just pretending that they do. Because if you really actually caught these people in the right type of, in the right time, and for them to say what they truly think about what they're speaking on, you would be amazed. You would definitely be amazed. You'd be like, huh, interesting. So then a lot of time these folks now pin themselves into a corner, because by try to preach what they don't really believe in, and then they actually form a core group or sort of fans that they become prisoners of their audience, because at any moment they deviate from the talking point, from the script that has been given to them, from the script that which they have learned and repeated and put their own little twist in it, but the same thing. But as soon as they deviate from said talking point, they actually now no longer want to give justification to the drunk and stupid. Then all of a sudden they get a huge backlash. That's why they cannot afford to deviate from that talking point. If you are Snowtep, then you better be a Snowtep for as long as possible, because otherwise you fucked. You're supposed to say whatever they want you to say. You're supposed to be the guy that tells them that how oppressed they are. You know, whatever the condition that they find themselves in had nothing to do with their own doing, had nothing to do with their own choice. They had no choice in the matter. They had no choice as to why they had like 3 or 4 baby mamas. They had no choice as to why they had like 3 or 4 baby daddies. They had no choice as to why they have not advanced in life. It's not their fault. And you better keep telling them that. And you better get your money. So, but enabling. Sooner or later, the person that you are enabling, you would be so entrenched in their own fuckeries that you would yourself deviate from the path, from your own path. That's why like the road to self-improvement is an individual one. You know, you cannot elevate a whole group. You first have to elevate yourself as a person. And then you pick and choose your circle properly. Not all skin folks are kin folks. And I do understand, like, sometimes we feel like we want to fix the whole world. But how can we do that while remaining the same? And then once you actually take certain steps to find out your own self-worth. Once you figure out your own self-worth, then you know certain cause are not worth your time. Certain cause are not worth your energy because you are constantly putting your energy on something that cannot be fixed. It's like you constantly try to fix, let's talk about the drunk family member, right? You constantly try to force that drunk family member to become better. And they're not going to do it because they are happy being that drunk uncle. They are happy being that drunk brother. They're happy being that drunk whatever. And all these excuses that they have as to why they are the drunk one of the family is an excuse. It's not a self-realization. It's an excuse to continue doing what they're doing so they don't have to change. And you thinking that these people are going to change, you are wasting your time. And you know it. And also thinking that those who point it out is somewhat an enemy for simply pointing it out the obvious, then you're going to be a very miserable person. So that's why you have to acknowledge those of y'all is not going to make it and those who will make it. People that have more potential than others, and then you work with those who have said potential and stop defending bad behaviors. Because otherwise, you're going to spend a whole lot of time trying to dox people and flag people because they say something that make your group look bad. Well, anyway, so it's Arbanaka. Share, like, comment, subscribe. Peace. I'm out, you guys.